Welcome back to the Autoblog Podcast. I'm Greg Migliore. We have a great show for you this week, an electric Dodge Charger. Well, what do you think about that? Revealed last week around the Woodward Dream Cruise. Lots to talk about, lots to unpack there. It sort of is a preview of Dodge's electric future as a muscle car maker. A lot to unpack there, like I said. We're going to talk about what this means, however, for the end of the road of the Dodge Charger and Challenger in their current forms. They're going to end production in 2023. Something is going to replace them at that Brampton factory in Ontario. We'll see what. More Dodge news. The Hornet is now a thing. Getting more information about that. We're going to talk about Rivian, Pebble Beach recap, and Duesenberg, surprise, surprise, took top honors. It seems like Duesenberg always takes top honors. And then we'll talk about what we've been driving. I've been in a VW Atlas. John's been driving a Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek. And we will spend your money. But with that, I will bring in senior editor for All Things Green, John Snyder. What's going on?
Hey, man, just enjoying the last little bit of summer that we can squeeze out. But I am also looking forward to winter. Looking forward to getting into some cars, putting them in the snow mode, and then hitting the slopes.
Mm-hmm.
Just got the emails that about the openings for the different mountains around the country. So
that's exciting. That's exciting. I was just thinking, I got a bit of a preview of fall last week. We were in the UP, which for non-Michiganders, that's the Upper Peninsula. You're north of like Canada. You're like next to Wisconsin. Mornings were pretty cool. And that's where I took the Volkswagen Atlas. And then it would get to be like 80 during the day, but it's kind of nice to fall asleep with like a 58-degree breeze wafting through the cabin. So it's kind of nice.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So, and like you, I'm excited about winter. I was just talking about that yesterday. I can't let that go. We were just talking about that in my house. I'm like ice skating, being outside in the snow, hockey season.
Yeah.
Hey man, it's all good. But to end summer, I cut the grass in the sweltering heat last night with my electric lawnmower, which we have talked about on the podcast. So summer's still here for another probably 3-4 weeks. I guarantee you for the Detroit Auto Show, it will be 90 that day.
Yeah, of course.
Like September 14th, it's going to be like 110 degrees. So, or it'll rain, or it'll snow. But
yeah, you don't know.
That's my cynical thing. So let's unpack the news last week about the Dodge EV concept and just the news in general surrounding, the Charger and the Challenger and what's next for them and what this, like at a higher level, means for Dodge as an electric vehicle maker. This is really their sort of initial foray into really having some sort of cohesive electric strategy. And the concept car, which we can talk about and we should talk about, we will talk about, it looks like a 68 Charger. You get my attention when you see that because I like Chargers. I own an 06 Charger. I mean, hell yeah. When you see this is exciting. They sort of showed off their like electric powertrain, which frankly, we haven't known a whole lot about. Stellantis has been behind with EVs, and this is sort of like their big swing to try to catch up. So how do you feel about this?
I am really excited about this. The Daytona concept, the Charger Daytona concept, that's what the EV is called.
Yep.
Is really cool looking. And it sort of previews the design for the, Charger, Challenger, whatever EVs, sort of muscle cars that they end up making in the next few years. And I think it's a really good step forward. Really holding on to those sort of retro looks that we've come to love Dodge cars for, and but still, providing ridiculous performance and really interesting that they're keeping some sort of gearbox. They say multiple gears. We don't know how many that is, but I think that's an interesting thing. Kniska said that their team just really likes the way a car feels when it shifts, when it's being pushed hard. So you're not losing that sort of feeling if that's something you like. It does give you a little sense of speed and that the car is actually doing something. A lot of EVs, you just go and it's just so linear and smooth that it doesn't really. It's just, other than being pushed back in your seat, there's not really a whole lot going on. But with this, it will have some sort of gear shift going on, and also it will make this concept anyway, makes noise. You can, if you look on our website or on YouTube, we have a video of the sound of it, and it's a really good sound. It sounds kind of like almost like a V8, with a little bit of a little turbine sort of whine to it. It sounds really good. It's not like a projected through a speaker sort of sound. It's Joel wrote about it. It says it's a pipe system with various chambers tuned to make noise. Like a pipe organ almost, but the result is pretty exciting. So you get that aural feedback too, driving this thing, even at idle, just bumbling around. This thing really holding on to the muscle car ethos, while moving into the future of electrification, just as everyone else is.
They're calling this powertrain the Banshee, which is another name from the past and a good way to kind of, get people actually excited about, Dodge performance, with electrification, supporting it, powering it, if you will. We don't know much about it. And this is very, I'd say, on brand for Dodge and Stellantis, is show a concept, but you don't exactly know what's under the hood sometimes, or you kind of like question what's going on there. Regardless, these things are going to be arriving in 2024-ish. So they're going to have to show us the goods sometime pretty soon.
Yeah.
But I mean, it sounds like it's capable of fast charging. 800 volt is what it's called. So, I mean, we don't really know anything else. And honestly, in some ways, that's fine. This is more like, I would say, to start the conversation versus to really do like a tech deep dive, and I think that's, for Dodge, they have to start the conversation because they haven't started it really, right. Whereas like every other car company almost has said, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it, blah, blah, blah. Dodge hasn't quite gotten there yet. So they're at least articulating at a high level what they're going to do, how it's going to look, and then they're going to kind of have to fill in the details. And Stellantis is a huge company. There's a lot of resources for them to draw upon. I think they'll get the powertrain to be, solid, as it will have to be competitive for these new variants.
Yeah, I do like that they're going with an 800 volt architecture, so so it can take advantage of the fastest chargers out there. A car like this, you're going to be driving it fast, and you want to charge it fast. I'm not. Who knows how big the battery is going to be? But I'm sure people are going to not want to spend a lot of time at the charger with this thing. A couple other details about it. It's all-wheel drive. They say it's faster than a current Hellcat. It will have an overboost function, so a little. They call it power shot, where it clocks up the output for a span of time. They haven't really said what that span of time is. And then it has drive modes: slam, drift, drag, and donut. So it promises to be pretty fun just by the name of those modes.
Yeah, I'm excited about some of this. I think to me this is, and I'm pulling together sort of like an opinion piece on this for the next maybe week or so. This isn't exactly what they're going to do, but it shows off all the things that are like sort of in their arsenal, things that they probably will do in different places, So you'll get these like driving modes, maybe on like the higher end one. You'll get, all sorts of different, as far as probably like power ratings from the, the battery packs and things like that. So we'll see. I mean, to me, it's also interesting as somebody who's always liked the Dodge Charger. This looks more like the original Dodge Charger, or I would say the second generation, because there actually was one before that based on I want to say the Coronet. This looks more like the 68, 69, 70 Charger than the current one does. The current one more like builds on the idea of what a Charger is, but it's not literal. This is more like, literally, this is like closer to a 68 Charger. So I think if you're an enthusiast, this kind of helps you you see this car and you're excited about it. Then you find out it's electric and you're like, well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know how I felt about electric in this sense, but you're winning me over. And I'm sort of making up a potential Dodge buyer, but I feel like that's how the conversation could go. So,
well, I feel like at least around here, the Dodge buyer range is a wide swath of people.
Yeah.
And Dodge has basically a variant for each one of those people. And I imagine they'll do the same with this. They sort of democratized muscle, having a powerful, cool car by making an affordable version of this of the Charger and the Challenger, and then going on up to the Hellcats and the Demons and things like that for the people who are have the means and are the passion to go that far with it. I imagine that there's going to be a little bit of something for everybody here, and there's going to be different outputs, and there's going to be different ones with different features and different capabilities, for different types of driving. So it'll be interesting to see, and it's going to be fun to sort of try all the different ones, and everyone has their own sort of favorite Charger or Challenger, and I'm sure we'll all each have our own different favorite versions of this, and they'll all be quite different.
I do wish they had added some scallops onto the doors. I think that would have been even slightly more retro, but they did really
cool.
I thought they got it pretty. It's like almost like a postmodern Charger when you look at this concept. Now, to extend this thought a little bit, we know the Charger and Challenger in their current forms are donezo in the next year or so. Mm-hmm. And this is sort of previewing what's next, but it's also a little bit confusing because they didn't exactly say, hey, we're going to replace these cars directly. So, and it's interesting because the concept is a two-door Charger. The Charger currently is a four-door. The Challenger is a two-door. So what do you do with that? Do you make, I don't know. I'm struggling to almost write my own theories and opinions in this column without like straight up doing fiction because, you're trying to look into the future and there's a lot of different ways they could go here. My current thinking is that you don't just want to do like a two-door Charger necessarily, even though that's almost like a home run play for some enthusiasts, because then you're giving up the sedan segment and you're also sort of giving up all of the goodwill and customer base that the Challenger has built up. So, and the Challenger at times has sold better than the Mustang and the Camaro. I haven't looked at who's currently atop the leaderboard, but the Challenger is doing they're a strong seller. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. So to me, there's a little bit of a dilemma, a conundrum. What do you do there? So they haven't exactly said what nameplates are going to continue. Certainly a two-door Charger would probably, assuage some of the people who would be sad about a Challenger going away. But there's a lot of brand equity built up there too. So what do you think will happen? I don't know. Look at your crystal ball.
I don't know. They could, they could just call it Charger and offer 2 and 4-door versions. Who knows? But I sure do hope that the first one that they offer, of a 2-door version looks just like this because this looks so cool, and it doesn't look too. I mean, on the inside it looks a little concept car-ish, but on the outside it's very much something that could be put into production pretty much as is, and people would, I imagine, gravitate toward it quite easily.
That is, I think, the single biggest question I have from all of this, which is in some ways losing the point of it, because the point of it is more like it's electric. But I mean, for me, the biggest question here is what does this actually mean for the Charger and Challenger and how they're positioned going forward? You know, every now and then we'll hear rumors about like Barracuda, which was a Plymouth, but I mean, a Dodge Barracuda would be fine in my opinion. I don't really see a net gain in swapping out Challenger for Barracuda though, you know? So I'm just very curious of what they do. I would like to see a two-door Charger though. I think that would be, you know, we are seeing a pivot away from sedans. It'd be ironic as if like moving to coupes is Dodge's solution for like declining sedan sales. You know, I don't know. It's, to me, there's a lot, again, I keep saying unpack, but there's a lot we don't know. But the point here is to get people excited about it. So I think they're certainly doing that.
Yeah. And I imagine Dodge will cater to, they'll find the niche in the market that's not being covered.
Yeah.
And cover that. That's one thing they've been doing well for a while, especially when it comes to performance cars. So I imagine that that's going to be the case, and that people who want, want what they know and love with Dodge, I don't think they're going to have to really worry. There's going to be something for them. Dodge knows who their customer is, and they will make something for them.
That's a good way to put it. But if you like the current Charger and current Challenger, some kind of fun things on their way out of town, if you will. You could get a convertible Challenger, which is something people have been asking for years. Some pretty fun colors and fun additions, if that's what you're looking for. You know, for what it's worth, these two cars with a few others helped sort of resurrect the muscle car segment in the US and frankly bring about this onset of modern enthusiasm. Because I mean, before the Charger and the Challenger and the Magnum, you didn't really have rear-wheel drive performance. The Mustang kind of was living on as a breed of its own. Camaro went away, came back. But like 250 horsepower is a lot of horsepower. It was tough to find a rear-wheel drive car. Design was super boring. Dodge and to really the Chrysler 300C, you know, under Dieter Zesche, the CEO at the time, you know, they're the ones who were like, hey, we're going to put big engines in Mercedes platforms and we're going to run with it and this is going to work. And everybody else is like, what are you talking about? No, it's not. And they've made it work for a long time. So, I mean, to me, that's the enduring legacy of the LX platform. So, but on their way out of town, you could get some cool stuff here too. Any of the stuff strike your fancy?
Yeah, well, not the convertible. I like the way it looks. I'm actually surprised at how good it looks.
Yeah.
I'm just not really a convertible guy, and I don't know, something about the structural integrity of that scares me a little bit. But
drop top Hellcat doesn't seem like the safest thing in the world.
It sounds like fun. It'd be fine. I don't know. It'd be cool to get some Scat Pack wide body, to keep in the garage. But yeah, there's going to be more versions coming out that we haven't been told what they are yet. So there's more to learn. There's more surprises coming from this current generation before it goes away. So I'm excited to see what they are, and I think those are going to be some pretty neat collector cars. Those are going to be fun to see at car shows in 30 years.
Let's talk about the Dodge Hornet kind of quickly here, because this is turning into the Dodge cast. But this is interesting. It's basically the Alfa Romeo Tonale. Actually, that's our subhead as I read our story here. I think it looks pretty good though. Dodge needs this. I don't think there's a ton of overlap between the Dodge and the Alfa buyer, except maybe in Detroit where people are like sharing their discounts. All-wheel drive, pretty powerful, looks interesting. Pricing is fairly competitive. I mean, that's to me, that's kind of interesting. Like Stellantis is letting one brand undercut the other in some ways. There's there is a plug-in hybrid powertrain, ironically, in the RT trim, which isn't necessarily where I'd expect that. Interesting. It's 1.3 liter 4-cylinder. That's almost European. Which probably
Right.
It is European. Never an RT Dodge with a 1.3 liter 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I don't know. I'm. It's easy for me to sort of be hard on this car just because it just doesn't grab me the way a lot of other Dodge products do. Even though there's a plug-in hybrid version, knowing that there's electric Dodges coming right around the corner, it's just really hard for me to get super excited about the Hornet. I like the name. I'm glad they brought that back. But again, you can get performance for a good price point, and I don't know. Maybe I'd get inside the RT, drive it, and absolutely love it. 288 horsepower, 383 pound-feet of torque, with that power shot overboost and launch control. Could be pretty cool. 0 to 60, 6.1 seconds. Not mind-blowing, but not terrible. I'd have to. I haven't driven the Tonale either, so I don't know really how the car handles. That would be a big question of mine. But if it, even if it's not super fast, if it has, good low end torque and some neat features, and if it has the handling to match, I might be able to fall in like with it at least.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't driven a Dodge crossover for quite some time. I'm not sure many people have, but some of these, like the Maserati Levante, the Alfa Romeo Stelvio, just like the crossover executions from some of Stellantis's like Italian brands, I've generally liked. So I feel like I'm probably gonna like the Tonale. Probably not nearly as much as I really enjoyed driving like the Alfa Romeo Giulia, which makes a ton of sense. What's more fun to drive, a boring crossover or a C-segment sports sedan that looks awesome?
Right.
But I think I could be all right with that. Dodge Hornet, I mean, it'll give Dodge some volume. I mean, sometimes you just gotta feed feed some different people, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, they have to be in that segment, and it's the segment to be in right now. So, it's good that they're entering that. I mean, someone wants this, and someone will really enjoy it.
I mean, the Durango you see plenty of them on the road around here, but it's actually a pretty good SUV. There's really nothing wrong with it. Jeep underpinnings, looks okay. Could put a ton of stuff in it. I mean, so I think if they could pull off sort of that level of ethos here, they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, like the Durango kind of drives like a 3-row Charger, and if this can have that same sort of Charger vibe to it on the road, not bad.
Yeah, cool. What about let's shift gears here a little bit over to Rivian. They eliminated one of their lower level trims, so that basically by default raises the base prices of their vehicles. I'm not at first I put this in the show notes thinking, hey, this might get people excited, but it's not that big a deal because frankly, one, everybody's raising prices on their cars, and two, you are seeing some of these trim level consolidations, if you will. And in some ways, sort of getting rid of the more entry level one is better than just raising the price on the entry level one, if that makes sense. But what do you make out of this?
I think they just sort of fell flat with their expectations of which versions people were going to get.
Yeah.
I think they thought they'd have more entry level customers and just didn't. I think, when someone goes to buy a Rivian, you're already spending, over 70 grand. So, those people are probably, they have neat options. So they're probably picking those options and picking higher tier versions of the R1T and R1S, and I can see why there wouldn't really be as much demand for the entry level version. I mean, if you're an early adopter and you're enthusiastic enough to drop that kind of money on a cool new EV, you're probably gonna spend a little more to make it even cooler.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense in some ways. Rivian's been on kind of a roller coaster the last year or so. I'm excited to get behind the wheel of the R1S. I have driven the R1T, which is the truck, and the SUV is the names the letters indicate. I'm starting to see a lot of the truck versions of the truck on the road around here, which makes sense. They have, I believe they do have a facility around here in Plymouth. Yeah, it looks cool on the road. Let me put it that way. I mean, you see it and it's just kind of like the right size. It doesn't look too big, but it's a good sized truck. I'll be interested to see how the next couple of years treat Rivian. Let me put it that way. I think if you're Rivian, you ought to be more on like the Autoblogs and the Car and Drivers as opposed to like the Wall Street Journals and the Bloombergs. And it seems like their money, or lack thereof, has been making more noise than their products lately.
Yeah. I keep fearing that they're going to be another one of those companies that phases out of the customer car market and goes toward goes all in on fleet vehicles. But I think now they're getting some traction and building a little bit of a customer base and building some interest, and now that they're actually getting at least a few of these in the hands of customers. They've had the supply chain problems and stuff, but yeah, they have enough interest from companies like Amazon to sort of keep them going, no matter what, so long as those deals hold up. I hope they keep going with the customer car arm of the business and expand it. Frankly, I think they could be in more segments. They shouldn't get ahead of themselves, obviously. They're having enough trouble as it is, but hopefully they stick with it and eventually find the opportunity to expand the passenger vehicle market.
That pivot, like we saw Bollinger do last year, it's interesting because a lot of these startup EV makers try to build like an aura of desirability. They're cool looking vehicles that are also electric, or they're electric and they're cool. But when I think of like Amazon delivery truck, I don't really think of either of those. And I mean, granted, there's certainly a business case there where you sort of lock in your orders so you know what your revenue is going to be, and then you only focus on delivering. So, I mean, from like, an MBA perspective, it makes all the sense in the world. You literally could predict your balance sheet. But I mean, it also, to me, seems a little bit like a waste of some pretty cool products, if you will, when they're not going to be in the hands of consumers who could drive them and like really like build a culture around them, which I think is something like the electric segment has. And that's, you want to be a part of that. So, we'll see. Yeah. So let's go back in time. We've talked a lot about electrics. Let's talk about Pebble Beach. Okay. I'm going to surprise you here and say a Duesenberg won best of show. Shocking. It seems like a Duesenberg always wins best in show. Although, to be fair, it actually hasn't been Duesenbergs all the time. It's been a few other things in recent years. My big takeaway from this was the winner was a 32 Duesenberg J. Fagoni Sports Torpedo. And my takeaway from this, I just thought this was cool, was how this car specifically sort of highlighted that like era of coach building in the 30s, where you would sort of order your car and then you'd commission somebody. In this case, it was Joseph Fagoni, who made a living building as a coach builder between the wars. And this was actually a one-off, reading Ronan Glon's story here on our site. Cool trivia fact that Ronan writes, that it was driven in the Paris to Nice rally.
Yeah.
That's kind of awesome, back in 1932. So what I like is when I see some of these, like when a car that wins a car show that actually sort of highlights like an era. And that's what, to me, this car did, and I always like the 1930s cars. I remember I had like 1930s Cadillacs and Packards and Cords and Duesenbergs that I played with as Hot Wheels. So, that is when we're talking about building a culture, there is this like on the historic side, where people make connections with it. So, cool show this year. Somebody always wins. Nobody really loses. Let's put it that way. And then there was just a gazillion concept cars that were shown. Like everybody, it seemed like, brought a concept car.
Yeah.
I tended to like the Aston Martin. It was called the DBR 22. I wanted to like the Lincoln one a little more than I did, but I thought that was just kind of weird. What stood out to you?
Well, that Lincoln, the L100 concept, they didn't really give a lot of details about it, but it is very eye-catching. Has those suicide doors and that rear hatch thing that opens up. It's supposed to be an autonomous, which instantly makes it slightly more boring. But I don't know. But it does look really neat. Definitely very, very much a concept, and I don't know really if what it could actually preview, except that they're thinking about weird things and thinking about autonomy. But let's see, there were some cool cars there. I'm still really skeptical about the new DeLoreans. They had
I was just going to bring that up.
The DeLorean Alpha 5, which we've seen. Then they have the plasma tail, sort of that shooting brake sort of deal, and then that Omega like off-roader that doesn't look like, we'll never see that. That's never gonna exist. But the Bentley Mulliner Batur, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, I think looks really nice. It took me a little while to get used to those little hood vent things, but it's a farewell to the W12, and I think a beautiful one at that. And it sort of previews the design of some of the EVs they're gonna be creating, which is similar to their current design, except on the inside they took it a little further. It looks, the craftsmanship on any Bentley is just incredible. Go look at the interior photos of this. It's really something. But yeah, that one really, really stood out to me. And then I was kind of excited about the ZDX. just those letters got me excited. I love that car. But yeah, the Acura Precision Ev concept, and and then they sort of announced the ZDX SUV that'll be coming. But the Precision Ev concept, it's a neat design study. Again, this is going to be one of those cars that's going to not. I mean, it's definitely a concept, but there are some aspects of it that I think that Acura will incorporate into future vehicles, and hopefully not all of it. Some of it's just way too futuristic. Like the steering yoke is looks completely unusable. The interior is very futuristic and very sparse, but Acura, I feel like their production vehicles always end up looking really cool, and it's one of the things that sort of sets them apart. They look different than other vehicles while still looking classy and athletic. So I'm those caught my eye and my attention. I'm looking forward to seeing what Acura does in the future. The ZDX will be based on the the Ultium GM Ultium platform. So there will be some things shared there with the Blazer EV. But again, another car we haven't driven, so we can't really make a full analysis of what this will be like to drive. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. One other I want to mention too is the Lucid Air Sapphire. I thought that looked really, really good. McLaren Solus GT. I think that one looks awesome. I think that is like, that's almost like 80s Decepticon vibe. I love that one. That looks great. Porsche's 911 GT3 RS, and then their tribute to the Carrera RS package was pretty sweet. I don't know. The rest of the stuff didn't really catch my fancy. I thought the Lincoln thing was just almost a cliche. Like, I don't know. I mean, it looks good, but I don't know. I expected more considering they're the 100th. It is the 100th anniversary, and they were one of the featured marks. And it's just kind of like, I don't know. It seems like, maybe a chance to like show out a little bit more when you get the center stage like that. But otherwise, I mean, that's what Pebble Beach's like, concept car lawn is. They get revealed throughout the course of the week, and then they all end up on the the lawn in front of the lodge on the morning of the concours. So, let's transition to what we've been driving. Back to the present, I've been driving the Volkswagen Atlas. You've been driving the Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek. I mean, this is kind of like, two flavors of, I don't know, like mildly interesting ice cream. Maybe not quite vanilla, but not Mackinac Island fudge either. So flip a coin. I guess I'll talk about the Atlas real quick. Took it up north, took it to the UP, filled it with everything. I mean, everything that you could possibly fit in there. 3 rows. Which is nice. Got the family in there, plus a 67-pound golden retriever, according to her most recent weigh-in at the vet. So I mean, this one comes in at 52.5, so it's nicely equipped, if you will. And I mean, it had the art sort of like trim, if you will, that kind of gives you a little more like the dressy pieces, some like the chrome accents, that type of thing. 21-inch wheels, 3.6 liter V6, which Volkswagen has been using for quite a while, 4-motion all-wheel drive, and then of course the 8-speed automatic. So it's kind of a high-level look at it. Beautiful racing green exterior. I don't know if I'd call it racing green. It's more like a forest green, but it's really good looking vehicle. Multiple people commented on it. And then the inside is brown and black. So very classy inside. Good value for 52, almost 53. Lot of vehicle, very functional. It's a good sized vehicle too. So, if you're looking for something in this 3-row segment, Volkswagen went with like the size play, that's for sure. And a little bit of the style play. I think it looks a little bit different than some of the I'll say domestics, which you could argue this is. It's built in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's got I like what they did with the cross coupe, as they called it too, which gives it almost like, and I said this last week on the podcast, almost like a less expensive X4 or X6 kind of look. Not particularly good on gas. I filled it up twice, but it was highly functional. Let me put it that way. So, good family vehicle. I wouldn't say it's the best or the worst in segment, which I really know is sitting right in the middle on the fence, but it's just a very solid competitor. I've reading some of the different reviews out there. Some of our competitors either kind of give it some pretty high praise. Some of them don't like it so much, if you will. So it's, kind of right in the middle, if you will, as far as like, it goes in the ranking. Lots of good storage spaces too. Big center console. There's kind of like a shelf on top of the dash, which is amazing for like sunglasses, maps, masks, like anything you might need in 2022 that you're carrying around and want to leave in the car for whatever you might face. Yeah, very comfortable driver too.
Yeah,
So
the Atlas has always struck me as sort of, a nice vehicle and a practical vehicle, but never an exciting vehicle.
indeed.
I've always been really bored whenever I've been driving one of them. But sometimes cars aren't all about excitement. And if you want a car that's comfortable and nice and has a clean design, the Atlas might be for you. And yeah, it's very, very roomy. So good car for a road trip, except for the gas.
I know you're starting to get your initial impressions of the Pathfinder Rock Creek. I drove one similar to this about a year ago. I think it was the Rock Creek edition, but a different model. I think that was also green, if I recall. Must be a thing. Good color for cars, I must say, and football teams. But what are your initial impressions of the Pathfinder Rock Creek?
Well, it looks really good in my driveway to start with. Those big all-terrain tires look great. Mine's in this sort of gray color, dark gray with all the Rock Creek stuff on it is black, like the black tubular roof rack. This thing looks like it's ready to go on a safari. It sort of feels like it could be an alternative to the Explorer Timberline, which was another one of those vehicles that the Timberline took Explorer, which I really didn't have any excitement about, and made it interesting to me. And Nissan sort of did the same thing with the Rock Creek edition. I'm not terribly enamored with the Pathfinder, but the Rock Creek edition makes me take note of it, and it does feel special and look special going down the road. You can feel the suspension and that you're riding on these great big all-terrain wheels. You can hear them going down the road, and yeah. So it's other than that, let's see. One thing that really kind of drives me nuts is the infotainment screen is sort of far away, and it almost feels as though it's turned away from you. I don't think it is. I think it's flat, like flush, perpendicular to, parallel with the dash, but it feels like it's on the other side of the car. And then a lot of the car functions, you have to manage them through the controls on the steering wheel, which is a little bit frustrating. Although once you get used to it, it is nice to have it right there and not to have to reach over to that super far away touchscreen to operate different things. But yeah, it was it's pretty comfortable to drive. It's not super powerful. It's 284 horsepower, 259 pound-feet of torque. So it's not fast, not slow. It's fine.
Yeah, I like the Rock Creek. I think it's a cool name. It sounds cool. You get some cool stuff on it, and I think it sort of underscores how Nissan wants the Pathfinder to be. That kind of rough and ready off-roader, even though it's not exactly. But they're playing up the image of it. I mean, they're even calling their all-wheel drive system four-wheel drive. And I'll say this, they're at least sticking with this identity. For a while, it seemed like the Pathfinder, for the while, it seemed like Pathfinder didn't change, let's put it that way. But it did have some different identities in the last, say, 20 years. They're kind of sticking with this. I think it's a successful formula. Let me put it that way. So
yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it takes a product that I don't know is kind of cool on its own, but it just definitely amps up the interest factor for me. And especially, I really like those big all-terrain tires on it. I think those are the coolest part. So you've got at least a little bit of capability to crawl over some stuff with it.
That was another takeaway I had thinking back to my test drive, and it was how well it actually drove with those like large tires on it. Like you tend to expect a little bit of like, I don't know, a little bit more just bouncy jouncy, or it's like with those big rims, it could get a little uncomfortable, but it handled pretty well cruising through the suburbs. So yeah.
Yeah. Any automaker that wants to keep making, Timberline, Rock Creek, wilderness versions of their vehicles, I'm for it.
Me too. 100%. Should we spend some money?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. This is a good one. Let's see. Dave from East Brunswick, New Jersey writes, good day from the Garden State. Hey, good day to you. Or as one of the most famous natives from New Jersey would say, good evening, good evening. That's our good friend, Bruce. He's a friend, if you will, from my Auto Week days. So good to hear from you, Dave. Here's the scenario. My wife currently drives a 2019 Alfa Romeo Giulia. All-wheel drive, loves the car. We do too. We were just talking about it. It's a lease. We're not crazy enough to actually own an Alfa. Okay, fair enough. It's been amazingly trouble-free. Low mileage, about 15 grand. Lease is up in 6 months, and they're starting to think about her next ride. Probably not a terrible idea to cash out and get out of Dodge at this point, right? You've had a trouble-free, period of time here with the Alfa. Keep it that way, right? So there's that. Here's the scenario. She wants to go electric, no SUV or crossovers, and Teslas as far as where she's thinking. Let's see, trying to paraphrase some of this here. Want to stay under 70 grand, no used. Basically, it boils down to what electric sedan do they want to go with? So how's it going to compare to the Alfa? Can they beat it on price? And also a note here, David is 6'4" and needs to get in this car somewhat easily. So that's the criteria. Spend my money. And he leaves us a nice little note here that we could get to after this. Don't let me forget with our little beer talk. But let's get into it. And here's his rundown. He just sold his her 08 Miata. They have a BMW K1600 GT. Very cool. Ford Explorer is a company car, and of course the outgoing Alfa. So let's spend some money here. What do you think there, Mr. Green, editor?
Polestar 2 dual motor.
Okay.
It's got the performance. It's a cool, unique car that not everyone else on the road is driving, kind of like an Alfa. It has sort of a minimalist but interesting interior. It's very thoughtfully crafted. Again, kind of like the Alfa. And I looked, and taller drivers seem to have no problem with it, other than the center console. The sides of it go up pretty high, so your knees might be bumping into that. Your one knee might be bumping into that, but you probably shouldn't have problems with headroom or room otherwise. But yeah, I think that's the move. It's a quick car. It's a cool looking car, very sort of stealthy looking. If it catches their eye, it will turn heads, but won't always catch their eye. Kind of goes under the radar. Again, the performance is great. Handles really, really well. So that would be what I would recommend.
That's a strong one. That one came to mind immediately as well, because you can comfortably get in under that 70 grand barrier, and you get a fun to drive car. You get a lot of capability. I just saw one driving the other day, and the looks are really growing on me. So that's one I would recommend. The other one I would suggest, and I know I'm really blowing the budget here, is look at a Taycan. The base price, just looking at Porsche's website, is 88. I don't know how flexible you are. If you could go like 18 grand over 70, I mean, that's a fun car to drive. Let me put it that way.
It is.
If you want to get some of that emotion, I mean, Alfa Romeo, a Porsche is probably one of the few things that is a step up in that range. So I know that's kind of fudging it, if you will. The 88 sticker, 88 grand sticker, Porsche isn't breaking down incentives. Those are changing even as we speak. So, there probably is some sort of incentive at some point. But I mean, it sounds like they have the Alpha for 6 months. We're gonna have to wait and see exactly how the dust settles on those. But that's a fun one. I mean, that's another one I would look at. I like Polestar 2. I think, you're taller than me. I mean, you fit in the Polestar 2 pretty easily, right? If I remember right.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
6 foot even, and
Yeah.
not a small guy by any means at
Yeah.
all. And totally comfortable in there.
Yeah.
You
Cool.
might, yeah. It depends on how you feel about legroom,
Mhm.
like side to side lateral legroom. But I didn't have any problems with it. I felt perfectly cozy and happy, and honestly more focused on the drive, on that experience than on anything else. Although I would just kind of go out and sit in the car too.
Yeah.
It's a nice vehicle, comfortable, interesting, makes neat sounds. The turn indicator makes a neat little pulsing sound. Just everything about it is just a little bit different. It's not quite like anything else out there right now, which could turn some people off if it was done wrong, but it's done in such a great way that all the little things that are different and that you aren't used to are attractive and are easy to live with and easy to use.
It's funny you mentioned that. I think that's where Rivian actually goes astray with some of their funny little things that are different. Like those things bugged me in like the R1T. We'll see if they can maybe clean that up as far as like just infotainment, total side note, total tangent. But that's, I think, Polestar and Rivian are good examples of like, hey, this is how you can do it right. This is how you can do it maybe different and maybe not do it so right. There are parts of the R1T, like that pass-through storage area, that I really do like.
Yeah.
I digress. Polestar 2 is a good one. You want to spend a little more? I would look at the Taycan, maybe talk to your tax person, see if there's a way to get that a little closer. I don't know. It would still be a very base Taycan too, because Taycan gets to $150 like really quick. Let me put it that way. Now, also one other one I want to mention, or two more, is a Kia EV6 literally arrived in my driveway during this podcast. It's pretty roomy. I'm a little bit I think shorter than you guys. But I mean, I have no problems fitting into either the EV6 or the Hyundai Ioniq 5. I would say the EV6 is a little bit more emotional. So that would be one I might want to look at, Dave, if you're thinking about something that's, I think, truly fun to drive. And then I think
he said no crossovers. We're going to call it a wagon.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would literally draw the line between those two cars. Is the Ioniq 5 to me is more of a hatch crossover. The EV6 feels like more of a wagon. Yeah. So that's where I would go with that, even though I think even Kia calls it a crossover. Mach-E is a crossover. So I guess we'll eliminate that right now. Even Ford calls it one. But I had fun driving it. So I'll leave that where it may be. All right. So
fair enough.
Good letter there, David. Thanks for writing. He writes that he is already enjoying Hefeweizen by the pool. It's late August. You're getting close to Oktoberfest season. I've been in Munich and I've been in Germany in like mid to late September when this stuff gets popular. What are you drinking these days, John?
Let's see. We've been still doing these, like, my wife got a cocktail of the month club.
All right.
And we've been doing those. They're great. The last one we got was this Marionberry syrup. And me growing up in Oregon, I'd ride my bike around and pick Marionberries and eat them. And you can just craft these different cocktails in different ways, depending on what liquor you use or what other things you add to it. And those have been really nice. Great way to start an evening. end of the day, head out to if we're up north, head out to the beach, sit on the sand, and sip one of these little cocktails that we brewed up. But as for beer, I think the last beer I drank was just a plain old Polish sort of Pilsner style beer. I forget where it was from. It was somewhere in Michigan. I'll have to look it up because it was pretty decent. And I'm a big fan of that style of beer, like the German and Czech Pilsner, and this one was Polish. Couldn't really taste that it was Polish, but I don't really know what makes a Polish style Pilsner Polish style, but it was good.
Yeah,
and I don't remember who made it.
That's funny. I was golfing with somebody and they pulled out like a Czech beer, and I was like, "Well, I don't see this every day." But he's like, "No, it's good. Here, have one." I was like, "Yeah, no, this is pretty good." So I'm keeping it super local. I am drinking a Keweenaw, not literally at this moment, Keweenaw Brewing Company Red Ridge. This is the blood orange flavored. It's a blonde ale. It's perfect for really any time of the year. It really is, but it's really nice in the summer when maybe you don't want to quite go all the way over to like a shandy or something, but it's just a little bit sweeter. I like how beer tastes. Like I like a Coors Light, but this also tastes like a very crafted beer. So drank a lot of that up north. Still got a few left over. I don't want to drink them too fast because they're a little tougher to find around here downstate. It's a little easier up north, as we say. Not just up north, but in the UP. It's brewed in Houghton. So you got to go north to really get it. But it's a really good, smooth beer. I'm going to throw some chicken on the grill tonight, eat it with some leftover basil pesto pasta that my wife made that's outstanding. And yeah, I think I'm going to crack one of those open in the next few hours.
Nice.
All right. So we can leave it there. If you find the Autoblog podcast outstanding, like I find this blood orange beer, and we hope you do, that's 5 stars in Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get the show. Send us your Spend My Monies. That's podcast@autoblog.com. I want to thank our producer, Eric Meyer, and his group, Skyway Traffic. We will let the soothing tones of Skyway Traffic take us out. Be well.